So welcome to another board game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm John F. Kennedy. I'm Grant. Sorry.
Today we're taking a look at 1960, The Making of the President. And this is not a new game, but it's a new kind of edition of the game. This is put out by GMT. I think formerly it was by Z-Man Games. And this is a game that's designed by, and I apologize if I butcher this, it's Jason Matthews, and it's Christian either Leonard or Leonhard. So, whichever one, apologize.
Good game, by the way.
So it's an election game. This is a card-driven game, and I posted an unboxing video. The components are up to GMT quality that you'd expect from them. Great pieces, great looking game. I had a blast playing this, which I'm both not surprised at, but a little bit surprised at how much fun I had. Because U.S. election games are not something that I'm normally interested in.
Not your forte.
No, and there's a few of them out there. You know, I spent new one every 4 years.
Right.
And I was of no interest in. But the historical aspects to this, and I don't know, I have a disconnect with it, but I also have learned a lot about this period and, the Cold War and from other games and some of the events that led from this and after this election. So I was a bit more interested in what's going on, so it meant a bit more to actually play, and that GMT putting out a bumper version was kind of sealed the deal. Yeah, I'll give this a try.
Yeah.
So, traditional kind of CDG, but it's not a war game. But this is the perfect setting for that kind of a game where you're spending points to put an influence, because you're just putting in cubes in and out of states to gain electors' votes, and then each state is worth a certain points, which is the electoral college, and then at the end you just count up who's got what, and that's who wins the election, who wins the game. So mechanically it's actually very, very simple, and it played very, very quickly. We played this in
under 2 hours.
Under 2 hours of actual playtime.
Right.
We read the rules. I read them before. Easy rule book, not very large, and we took 20 minutes to read the rules together, explain them.
And that actually included the 2 hour playtime. Couple of times we'd have to get the rules back out, like endorsements and television media advertising. How did that work?
Yeah, just referencing those because and
very quick.
And then I was like piddling around with my kids as well.
Right.
So this is a very, very quick. It's a 2 hour game as opposed to Twilight Struggle, which could go 4 hours.
3 hours, 4 hours. But I really felt like this was, to be honest, I felt like this was a lot like Twilight Struggle, in my opinion. Very same style.
Yes.
Where you're placing influence, called campaigning points, and then the other player is trying to remove those. You don't have coups, but you do have, where you're removing things.
Yeah, a lot of events
that take away a bunch of
bits and pieces.
So it really felt similar to that to me, and this is a clear CDG.
Yes,
no question.
And I enjoyed it how simple it is. So whilst it's like other CDGs like Twilight Struggle, I felt like it wasn't that way in the sense that the hand management is a bit more pleasant.
It is.
Every card isn't like a dire struggle.
A death sentence for yourself.
Yeah. Some of the stuff shifts so much that, you put stuff out, it changes, put some out, it changes. It's not, you don't have the... AP in this was not nearly as bad as other
Well, in Twilight Struggle, there are certain cards where if you play them, the game's over for you.
Yeah.
Right? It'll decrease the DEFCON level and auto lose for you. There didn't seem to be anything like that in this. We played it one time, so maybe there is, and we just didn't come up with that combination of cards. But
the other thing that I loved about this game is that the events that you play that benefit the opponent, those only go off of the opponent if the opponent spends one of their hard-earned momentum tokens.
Yeah.
So there's this mini economy management of trying to keep one or two of those to trigger the opponent's events. And that was quite, these are a struggle to get because you get those through
they're not easy.
The issue track and gaining through events as well.
And I love, in CDGs, I love looking through my hand and surveying the board and even surveying the resources of my opponent and saying, that one's okay to play. Because I would look over and you wouldn't have a momentum token. I'd be like, that one that was really going to neuter me,
Yeah, you're like,
I'm okay. Boop, play it.
Exactly.
Because I didn't know when you were going to then maybe pick up one of these. So I had to play that quickly, and that's very common
Yes.
in CDGs. You have to get rid of some cards quickly because, man, they can mess you over if you don't get rid of them. And or if a condition comes in play that will then make them playable. So one of the things I liked about this version of a CDG was I felt like I was paying attention, or at least monitoring a little more closely what you were doing, as well as what resources you had.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about these, but these momentum tokens, if you had one or two of these, which allowed you to then kind of buy in to one of the events that I just had played, it really made me double think about whether I wanted to play that card at that time. And I really liked that because all CDGs have that element where you're trying to minimize the negative impact of any hand that you were dealt. You're trying to turn lemonade into lemons, or lemons into garbage, basically, is what's ended up happening. And I really liked that I had to pay attention to what you were doing.
Yeah, well, and there was, in one of the very early turns, I had a hand that was very Kennedy based.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is, you had one token, so I dangled a card that you played on, and I was like, thank you.
Right, I bit, I win.
Because the other ones were so much worse. So
Right.
there's a lot of meta that you can build into the
Yep.
game with the people you play with, and that's really, really enjoyable. And I like you said, you can watch what the other player's doing a bit more, because I feel the mechanics in this one are very simple.
Right.
Your cards are, it's placing cubes, taking cubes off, and really it's iterations of that. So there's not a ton of extra deep, complex things that you have to calculate or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it allows you just to kind of take a step back. This is a fairly simplistic game in that sense, but from a strategic standpoint, there's a lot to it, but this is a very easy to learn CDG, and I'd recommend this to almost anyone.
I would actually say this is a very good entry level CDG. If you really haven't done many CDGs or card driven games, I think this is a good one to get started on and get used to the system and the concepts, and then move into more complex ones.
So what we'll do is we'll take a look at the board and talk about how some of the bits and pieces were. So here's a look at the board, and this is kind of how the game ended up for us here. And as you can see, it's a map of the United States. You got continental US, and you got Alaska and Hawaii kind of separate over here. And there's a kind of a Kennedy section down here to store your cards, and then the Nixon part up the top, and there's a turn track over there. And so in the game we played, Kennedy won the election, which is how it happened historically. But I played as Nixon, and I thought it was so much closer than it was. And on election day, I thought I'd done enough to actually take the election and win it. But the reality is actually I got crushed pretty badly. I only had 233 electoral college votes in the end, and Kennedy had 298.
98, yeah.
So really, I kind of got my butt handed to me on that one. But the really interesting parts of this game, it's the value of the states that you're campaigning in, right? And you see that in real life. You get campaigning in the swing states and then the big states, and that's a lot of the rest of the states are left alone. So I won here. I won New York, which is worth 45 points, and I won California down here, which is worth 32.
And Texas.
And Texas, I had 24. But really, all the rest of my other states, I had an 8 and a 12, and the rest of these were single-digit states that I picked up over here. And those single-digit states are just not enough to ride an election on. I thought I'd taken enough of the big ones to pick it up. But if you look over in the Midwest, you've got a lot of double-digit states, and on the East Coast and in the South. Those just add up. They just add up.
Well, like I was saying, even a smaller state like a Kentucky, which is 10, is worth 3 Wyomings, right, in points.
Yeah.
And that when you total up the states, Kennedy won 31 states and Nixon took 19.
Yeah. Well, and I think about the game, how much campaigning went on in the West?
Very little.
None. None. I put
Very
these
little.
cubes out because the card was like, you get
Put
one in
7 out,
every
yeah.
state in the West, basically.
Basically the Marshall Plan for the West.
Yeah.
Put 7 out
And
Western
all the
Europe.
campaigning was in the East and in the Midwest and in the South. And the Midwest you had locked up early.
Well, and I think that was exactly it. As we were trying to learn the game, I think what I focused on was using and here's a card. Let's see if you can just hold it up there. If you can see on the left, there's a value that says CP. That's campaign points. That's like your op value. And I was just using a lot of those to add 4 campaign points in cities or states. And I remember after the first round, remember what I asked? I said, Alexander, I feel like all I'm doing is campaigning.
Which is...
Yeah, and you were like, yeah, I think you're doing it right.
I think that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. And you were trying to do a lot of really cool cards to get things going and build things up, which was neat.
Yeah, well, and I tried to, at least early game, I was trying to get some endorsements going, trying to get some media stuff,
really
advertising,
key.
and then working on the issues track. Because I felt like I needed a leg up going into the debates, which is a whole little mini game that you play in round 6, which was really fun too. So I was trying to do some of that and seeing if those endorsements and the media stuff would really kind of change what happens on the board from a campaigning standpoint. But really, it didn't do too much. Like, it did stuff, but there's nothing better than just moving a piece around and chucking a bunch of cubes onto the board.
Right.
Maybe I'd focus on that a little bit more in the early game, but it's a fun game nonetheless. So what we'll do is we'll take a little look here at the debates, which are played on this little card. In the debates, you basically take a break from the game in round 6. And what happens is you have these issues on the issue track, and these go onto the debates. And basically throughout the game, each round, the last card of your hand is you'll have a hand of 5 or 6 or 7 cards. The last one you'll discard kind of into your campaign strategy. And so you'll have 5 of those, and you use those cards to debate. And this issue goes on the economy, and this has a choice of which candidate it can go towards. It can go to either candidate. And if I played it, I'll put it on my side here for under the economy. Let's face up. And basically, each player is doing that, and you'll have a series of cards, and then whoever has the most on an issue will win that issue, and those issues give you free cubes to put on the board that don't have the restrictions.
Which can be very, very powerful.
Yeah, because normally, if a state is being carried by a candidate,
meaning they have 4 cubes or more.
Yeah. Normally, the opposition has to draw from a bag, which is built over the game. Oh, look, I drew a red one, and if Kennedy had pulled this, they don't get to campaign there, and they lose their campaign point. But the cubes you win from the debates don't have that restriction. So Kennedy, if he won 3, he could just go in, boop, take 3 off without any of those kind of restrictions. So there's power in doing that, and I think I maybe committed a bit too much to that. Mm-hmm. But that was a really fun little break from the game. You do this extra cool stuff, and then you go back into the game for 2 more rounds, and then boom, it's election day.
The debates are fascinating because the way the cards work, I could actually play a card that would help you win an event or win an issue. So as you debate the issues, the first place issues are going to give less reward than the third place issue, right? You're going to get two
I think it's
political cubes.
It's 2, 3, and 4.
Whereas the third issue, you're going to get 4. So I might play a card that I have that's going to help you win that issue, so that can be done and over with, and then I can spend the rest of my cards trying to win the other 2 issues. I really liked that. I thought there was a lot of gamesmanship in that, and a lot of thinking strategically about how do I want to try to play these 5 cards that I have.
And it makes you think about the cards you put in that deck more than just, oh, I'm just throwing this one away. So in Twilight Struggle, you put a card into the space race, boop, I'm just doing it to throw it away, nothing happens. The cards that you throw away, quote unquote, actually do something. So if you throw away trash, it's going to come back and bite you in the long run, or at least it can.
And then the game kind of changes up at the end. We're doing in the final round, the cards that you've put aside, what are they called? They are
the campaign strategy cards.
The campaign strategy cards. So they are used, show them a card and show them the state. So rather than looking at the issue and the political affiliation, you're looking at the state in the bottom right corner, and you're going to play those, and you're going to affect that state. So Wisconsin there has a 3 CP, you're going to actually take 3 cubes and be able to pull from the bag.
Yeah, you pull 3 from the
times.
bag,
Yeah.
and it's you just do 3 for whatever.
Right.
The CP value is meaningless. That basically this card just says M or WI on it.
Right.
And that was cool. It's almost this last ditch effort to
Yeah.
get swing states or powerful states, and that was fun. The actual election,
It was.
You were drawing from a bag an absolute ton, and it really changed things.
A little bit random, I thought, at the end. I remember when we were pulling it out, I was like, oh, this is a little bit random. But the way you mitigate that is you make sure and put a lot of those cubes in that bag.
Yeah, so everything that was left in our bag, it was actually a pretty healthy mix.
Yeah, there was
But the cool part is that, like you said, the last round, you put in all of the cubes from your media support. You put in bonus ones, you put all your media support cubes in there, and then anything you've got on the issues you put in there, and then you can turn in, if you've got these momentum markers, you can turn those in for 2 cubes apiece into the bag. So you're really trying to seed that bag and build the bag.
To improve your chances of pulling your color cubes.
But it's still odds
Yeah,
based.
it's still random.
And that's cool. Yeah, it's
Kind of a fun little twist.
and that's how I feel about this game. This was fun. It was not particularly deep in the sense that I'm not like I didn't feel like this game was a struggle.
Right.
I didn't feel any part wanted to tear my hair out. I enjoyed playing every part of this game. So let's wrap up here and we'll just have some final thoughts before we close up. So that was a look at the board, and it's 1960, the making of a president. I'm a big fan of it. Grant, what's your final thoughts? How would you summarize?
I think this game is an introductory level card-driven game, but I think this is a very fun game. I think it's not too deep. I don't think the rules are overly complex or overly burdensome. I also think there's enough really neat elements that you have to really think about. That this game's going to be interesting no matter if it's your first time playing or your 10th time playing. I think this is a very interesting game. I also think there's things we didn't fully get or appreciate, I guess. The issues track, I think we either overemphasized it or we didn't emphasize it enough. So I think that's something we're going to learn as we go through a couple more plays. But this game definitely has a lot going for it.
Yeah, I like, and this is the same with all these types of games. The cards have a little description at the bottom of what actually happened in the events there. So
some history.
I'm always learning, and I love that in a game where it can teach me something as well. Just that engages you that extra level. And a theme that I was, again, electoral game, not my first choice, but this one was really, really good. I had a really good time playing it. And as accessible and easy as this game is to learn, I think it does offer a lot of depth to those who want to put the depth there.
Right.
You could spend forever trying to calculate best possible moves and calculating the odds and the numbers of this value, doing all that. But we just plowed through it, and it just went and it played. It was really fast playing, and that was really refreshing. And I found that very enjoyable about this game. It was going. Everything was moving around. I thought that was excellent. The game has a really good flow to it.
Well, and we like war games. We play a lot of different war games. This is not a war game, but it still has some of those feelings and elements to it.
Yeah.
Because it's a battle over a certain area. And we love this. We say this a lot about card-driven games. I put something down. I put 3 cubes down, and guess what? Alexander's going to play a card and remove those three cubes. And it always boils down to who continues doing what they set out to do and stayed with their strategy is typically how the game turns out. If you kind of blink and you give up on certain things, you're done.
Yeah.
You've got to be consistent. You got to keep coming at it. You can't give up, I guess, in these games.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times when I play something and then you undo it or you undo it 2 times in a row, I start to think, oh, I'm going to do something else.
Or in this one, you put the Midwest so heavily blue that I was like, I'm not even going to bother.
So you kind of gave up. Yeah.
Well,
and it allowed me to focus on other areas. And I was able
to
take the East. But you can't give up. You just got to keep going and going and going. It's like a dog after a bone. They're never going to give up until they get that stupid bone.
And I feel that way about so many other games. Things like
Right.
Washington's War, exactly the same way. A lot of the coin games, other CDGs where you're just vying for the influence, and it's this tug of war. This is exactly like that.
Very, very similar. Yes.
Gives you that same feel, but it just not as I don't have the thinky pains with this, because I don't have
Right.
the extra combat odds to calculate and all of this army stack. So that was really, really, really nice.
Well, a game that we really love, a card-driven game that I think is a very brain-melting game, is Labyrinth. This does not have that depth.
No.
It really doesn't. I think that there's a lot of depth here,
Yes.
but it's more surface depth, if that makes any sense. It's more easily understood and executed, where in Labyrinth, I think you're really thinking 5 turns ahead sometimes.
And that's where that's completely asymmetrical. You got
Right.
to put yourself in this mindset, and then
Yeah.
if you want to play the other side, you relearn.
Yeah, you got to
game
relearn the
almost.
games. Yep.
This is I'd introduce this to almost
Yeah.
anyone if they're playing anything more than like King of Tokyo. I would let them play this, and they would learn it and learn it easily and play and have a good time with this.
So what other CDG do you think this really compares well to?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Of the ones that we've played. Now, obviously, we've only played about 10, but...
So I don't know, because it fills a very different niche to me. But I would,
Right.
where things like I don't know, maybe
It's just hard.
maybe Washington's War.
That's
is
kinda what I was
reminds
thinking.
me of the most.
Yeah. I get a Twilight struggle feel, but I'm not so sure it's not just because it's the Cold War.
Because it's red and blue.
Right, well, it's red and blue, and it's the Cold War, and it's that same era.
Yeah.
But it has some similarities, but I also think Washington's War. I think of what are those called? Political counters?
Yeah, and how easy that game is to learn as well.
Right.
It's a lot of
Difficult to
it's a lot
master,
of flipping those, and
Yeah.
then you've got a little bit of armies to move around. This is also very accessible as well.
Yeah. I like this game quite a bit, and really nice job on the components. Those cards are fantastic.
They really are.
Aesthetically, they're beautiful, very thick, very nice. Love the historical element on the bottom. Really great components, beautiful colors. You were talking, this color blue is really nice.
Yeah, it's almost like a powder
Powder
blue,
blue.
just to shake it up.
Yeah, really like this game. I did not play the previous Z-Man Games version, but I think this probably blows that out of the water. Would be my guess.
Well, because people talked about this game, said it was great.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, GMT's putting out an edition. I'll wait just to see what a new one looks
Yeah.
like. And I'm glad I did, in the sense that it's fantastic. And this gets big thumbs up from me, and I highly recommend this one.
Definitely give this a try. I think it's a fun one.
So that's 1960, The Making of the President, and we've been the Player's Aid.